This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana, welcome sim racing fans to the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship here on the iRacing Esports Network and presented by Apex Racing TV. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the commentary booth is Austin Knight, and down in the control booth is Marco Barbanera. Austin, this track is so historic. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway is known from everything from the Indy 500 to the Grand Prix of Indianapolis. How much pressure are these drivers feeling going into this race, racing at such a historic track, especially live here on the iRacing Esports Network?
Yeah, when you race here in real life, there's just a buzz around here, no matter what series, no matter what layout. Even if you're just doing the fun little karts in the infield, there's always a buzz in your heart because you're racing at the Brickyard, one of the grandest stages in all the sports and the largest gathering for a single sporting event for the Indianapolis 500. You always see the ovals and everything. You always just love this place, and if you're a motorsports fan, this place is absolutely heaven. So these guys, a win here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, even if it's just the road course, will still mean a lot to them.
There's only a handful of tracks in the world that when you say the word racing, they immediately pop into your brain, Indianapolis being one of them. Currently looking at Omar Baja, driver out of California, behind the wheel of number 16 at Formula 3.5, making his way, finishing up his qualifying run. We can take a look at the championship standings heading into this race. Tim Delisle currently leading the way by 200 points over his Aussie teammate Greg Olson. 877 points leading the way for Delisle, 677 for Olson. Rob Bohr is in the field for this race coming up. He has 661 points, currently sitting in third. Austin, when you look at this championship standings, this top 18, who are some drivers that really stand out to you as having an amazing season so far in 2020 season one?
Well, Tim Delisle has just been absolutely on point, because he's just been winning every race that we've broadcasted, and he's got a 200-point lead above everybody. But qualifying is over, and we're going to run through the grid. Taking pole, it's not Tim Delisle because he's not in the session. It's I Am Keeman taking pole ahead of Steve Honan, Manuel Domingo, Paul Ilbrick, Christopher Herbino, Greg Olson, Jorge Exposito, Alex Sirotkin, Amalia Ness, Rob Bohr, Edward A. Simborski, and Omar Baja, your top 12. They're followed up by Rob Crouch, Joshua Stewart, Nicholas O'Short, Patrick Leovette, Cedric Bill, and Eric Lindstrom, Thomas Knoll, Luke Groom, and Stephen Warkup in P21.
A stacked field of drivers ready to go racing here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Everybody looking forward to this race. The final cars gridding up on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway front straightaway for the standing start to get this race underway.
Funny thing about the Indy road course, turn one, it's just a flat 90-degree turn followed up by a left-hander. They had to change up the infield for the Indy cars because the sudden change from the hairpin all the way to the hard right into the front, into the side straight where the DRS zone is, it upset the car so much that they had to basically turn into a crawl. So that's why the IndyCar route is a little bit different than the 3.5 route. But in here, we use the old Formula One circuit that has been built here for the Indianapolis Grand Prix. We're not going to mention that one unfortunate race that F1 had.
Well, here we go. The lights about to go out. The cars are fired. The drivers getting ready We have 5 red lights. Tires spinning, and away we go. I Am Keeman with a good start, side by side for second with Honan and Domingo. They'll rush down to turn number 1, a hard 90-degree turn into the Indianapolis infield. Everybody getting through the first couple of turns pretty easily, still 2 by 2 for most of the way back. The field staying close together as they'll make their way onto the first lawn straight, but we have a couple cars off track in the back, Austin.
Yeah, it's Joshua Stewart and Nicholas O. Short off track right now. It was an amazing start for Eric Lindstrom. All right, up 4 places. We're on board with Amal Yanez. He gets into the back of Alexei Sirotkin right ahead of him, and Exposito is off the track, and he's stopped.
Exposito turned all the way around. He'll get that Formula 3.5 car pointed the right direction. I Am Keeman continuing to lead the way. They'll head on to the oval, the fastest part of this racetrack, as they'll go through the oval turns 3 and 4 to finish out the lap. Sorry, oval turns 1. They'll head on through. This is turn 13 on the road course, heading back on to the historic Indianapolis Motor Speedway front stretch across the yard of bricks, and we'll have 1 lap down of 28 here at Indianapolis.
DRS is already enabled for Manuel Domingo. You can tell if he's using DRS if you can't see through the rear wing. If you see a little slit right there, DRS is not enabled on these 3.5 cars. And we got a little dive up the inside from Yanez, and he makes it look absolutely fantastic.
Yanez almost getting into a little bit of contact with Rob Bohr, but Bohr being able to stay off of him. Currently still leading the way as I Am Keeman. Some great battles here back in the pack. They're going to head back onto this lawn straightaway. I believe this back straightaway almost in the infield is going to be one of the most important DRS zones, along with turns 1 on the oval, turn 13 in the road course, and the front stretch. Because these are such long straightaways, DRS really is useful. And diving to the inside is Rob Bohr. He'll think against it as they head through turns number 9 and 10 and back through 11 and back onto the oval.
Yeah, coming out of the infield, heading on to the short chute into turn 1. Oval turn 1, I must say. Rob Bohr in that draft. Perfect time to use DRS immediately after mid-corner. We'll see if he uses it right now.
2 laps down now. No DRS from Rob Bohr.
He's got a car on his side. Yanez diving down the insides, trying to sell him a dummy. He's going to go for it, setting it up onto the apex of turn 1. He gets the advantage, and Yanez moves up into P9.
Very early for these battles here, but Amal Yanez wanting to get past Rob Bohr. Bohr basically blocking him down the front straightaway into turn number 1. Yanez dived down to the inside, took that 9th spot away. This is a battle for 9th. And you can see Samborski right behind Bohr, crouched behind Samborski. Everybody from 9th back to 15th stacked up right here as they head back down the back straightaway.
Now they're coming down the back straight. Rob Bohr looking for a little revenge coming out of the straight. Not going to launch a attack on Yanez right then. He's just setting himself up in this tricky chicane section.
Making their way back onto the oval. Fastest part of this racetrack. Everybody kind of spreads out right here, but everybody gets closer together as they head through turns 1 all the way to turn 7. That first infield section, very difficult to get a handle of.
DRS.
Coming down the front straightaway, Bohr looking to make another pass on Yanez. Yanez blocking him all the way down to the paint. Bohr goes to the outside. He'll have the outside line going into turn number 1. But Yanez blocking Bohr from making the move.
Yanez had DRS that entire time, and Bohr and Samborski did not even use their DRS. Yanez had to defend with the DRS going down that front straight, and I say that was DRS well used, but a great save from Bohr for not using DRS at all while chasing down Yanez.
And you got to remember, much like Indy cars, these guys only have a certain amount of charges for their DRS. They can only use it a set amount of times throughout this race. You really got to be strategic on when you do it. We're only on lap 4 of 28. When they come across the start-finish line, we will have 24 laps to go. Your top 3, I am Keeman, Manuel Domingo. We have a car flipping in the back. Thomas Knoll on his roof, but he's going to keep going. Stephen Warcup also involved.
Warcup has some damage from there. You see Thomas Knoll getting hit, and then he gets sent up onto his side and into the barricade after Stephen Warcup unfortunately collects him. We got a drag race here at the Brickyard as they cross the yard of bricks. Rob Bohr and Younes racing side by side, swapping places. Younes going down onto the inside once more. He's been so good on the brakes, but Bohr around the outside is going to take P9.
Thomas Knoll has made his way into the pit lane. You can see it there on the side of your screen on our beautiful Apex Racing ticker. He will head into pit lane, get the damage fixed on his Formula 3.5 after that crash. But right now, Amal Younes, you're looking at him right now, trying to make another move on Rob Bohr. Bohr getting a little bit loose there, coming off of the corner. You can see that car twitching. They'll head back down the back straightaway.
Yeah, they can only use about eight times per DRS, and there is a recharge for each DRS use. So they can't use it every lap. They do have to wait a little bit. In practice and qualifying, they can use it all the time, but in the race, they can only use it a set amount of times, and it has a recharge as Younes. But Manuel Domingo, he's using DRS right now as he's flying down the front straight ahead of Christopher Herbernal. Manuel had a great start, starting in P3, has jumped up to P2. Christopher Herbernal also jumping up 2 spots. Biggest mover in the field so far is Lindstrom right now in P13, as we see Samborski and Younes going side by side. A little bit of a lockup from Younes as Samborski's trying to hold it around on the outside of turn 2, heading into turn 3. He gets it for P10.
Samborski up to P number 10. These battles back here in the mid-pack are very exciting. Not a lot happening up in the front of the pack. I am Keeman continuing to lead, but you can see he's employing a little bit of strategy already. He's going down to the right side of the straightaway early so he can get a good run through this couple of corners down here, almost like a chicane. Turn 8, 9, and 10. You have to hit them perfectly if you want to hit them correctly, and everybody in this top part of the field has been doing that all day. That is why they are pulling away so far. Keeman continuing to lead, but Domingo right behind him. Is he going to try and use DRS here, lap number 6? Not sure if it's going to be worth it right now, not using DRS. We saw him use it last time by. Austin, how important is it to say, do you want to save your DRS charges or kind of use them to get track position early in the race?
Oh, that is a question that I really want answers. We see DRS being used by Rob Crouch, getting ahead of Younes, who's been having a very tough last few laps. We saw him being very aggressive early on in the race, but now that he's been using his DRS earlier on in the race, he's falling victim to the guys that have been taking it safe earlier on and warming up those tires. So I believe the time to use DRS is later on in the race in more crucial situations than when everyone's in a pack.
I think it also depends on the track we're at. A lot of tracks, track position is more important early because of how far the cars spread out between each other. Here in Indianapolis, with the infield section being so tight and so technical, everybody is staying together. The top 3 are currently around a second within each other. So I think using push to pass earlier rather than later might be a little bit more important here in Indianapolis. But if you stick around towards the end of the broadcast, we're going to ask a couple of the drivers in this race about DRS and how they used it throughout the race. So make sure to stick around here on the iRacing Esports Network for the post show when we interview a couple of drivers from this race. You are currently looking at I am Keeman, your leader. In second, Manuel Domingo. Third, Christophe Herbernal. In fourth, it's Steve Honan. Rounding out your top 5 is Paul Ilbrink here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and you are watching the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship here on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by Apex Racing TV.
These top 3 drivers, all of them so close to each other. Christopher has been closing down so much on Domingo as they're coming onto the back straight. One of these drivers is definitely going to be using DRS as either a way to close in on the car ahead or pull away, and I think I Am Keeman just used it right there.
Yeah, Keeman, all he needs to do right now is pull away from this group of cars behind him. He is currently leading. He sat on the pole, fastest driver in the field right now. So his main goal is to make sure that he doesn't see anybody in his mirror. And right now, he has a mirror full of Manuel Domingo and Christoph Herbino as they are sitting in second and third. We do have a lap car up ahead. I believe that is Steven Warcup, the number 17 machine. And yes, it is currently coming across the yard of bricks. The leaders will be reaching him in due time, and we have a battle for the lead. Using DRS, it's Manuel Domingo. Dives down to the inside in turn number 1. Can he take the lead? Yes, he will. Lead change here in Indianapolis, but here comes I Am Keeman back to the outside.
They almost swap positions with the switchback. I Am Keeman trying to hold it around the outside. They got so close to each other, as you heard Marco and I just absolutely reel back in our seats. But what a move by Domingo, setting it up the inside and holding it so much harder for I Am Keeman to get past. And we're going to drop down to the battle for 12 between Cedric Bill and Rob Crouch.
I didn't get enough breath for that move there. I had to force the words out of my lungs, but right now you're looking at Cedric Bill battling with Rob Crouch. You can see two teammates there, two very similar paint schemes for Bill and Yanez. Both of them on the same team, MXS Racing. Could they be trying to work together now? They kind of have Rob Crouch in an MXS Racing sandwich. So we're going to take a look at this replay. Manuel Domingo diving to the inside in turn number 1 on Keeman, but Keeman performing a little bit of a switchback there. As we go back live with Christoph Herbino, and Herbino now going to overtake I Am Keeman. Austin, is it possible Keeman has fallen back to conserve tires? Or, oh, Herbino missed it! Herbino missed turn 1. He's going to have to turn back, losing so many crucial positions. He's still in the grass, and he'll come back onto the racetrack in P number 7.
Right here. He rejoins right ahead. Oh, Bore Abba. We're definitely going to get a replay of this very soon. But whoa, that was very crazy.
Like I was asking you originally there, Austin, is I Am Keeman trying to conserve his tire wear or maybe his DRS charges, or do you think he's just slowing down?
Well, I think, like, some guys have pace in it earlier on, but I think he just forgot to brake, or his brakes failed. Because I didn't see any smoke and indication that that was the lockup from Christopher. That is very peculiar.
Could possibly be he missed his braking point. It looks like, yeah, no, he just stayed on the gas, and
Was he texting?
he might have been tuning into our broadcast here and hearing our wonderful commentary and got a little bit distracted there. But Rob Bohr now going to try and overtake him for P number 7. Rob Bohr currently sitting 3rd in the championship points. And you can hear the revs, everybody on the 6th gear limiter making their way down to turn number 1. Herbino going to keep P number 7 away from Rob Bohr, but I don't think this battle is done quite yet as they head back into the Indianapolis infield.
Yeah, as these guys are swapping positions for P8 and P7. Both these guys actually missing the apex of that turn as they're coming on to the back straight.
I love seeing that camera.
Moore must be like very confused as Herbino is just going straight, hitting his breaking point this time. I am still perplexed at his mistake.
This battle still continuing as they're going to head through turn number 10, now through turn number 11, and back on to the Indianapolis Oval through turns 12 and 13. Turn 13 of the road course being turn 1 of the Oval. They'll make their way back onto the front straightaway, board to the outside. This is where it really shows how good of a run did you get off at turn number 12 and through 13, because everybody is on the limiter coming down the front straightaway. It's all about how much momentum you got working for you. Urbano to the outside in turn number 1, making a pass is Rob Bohr. No.
Last and a late breakers. They both braked at the exact same time because they were both side by side of each other because neither of them were using DRS on the straight. They were both just at the same throttle input as everything.
Oh, wreck!
Little Vet and Exposito get into it, get into each other, and Little Vet went off into the grass.
Exposito turning Letavet through turn number 2. I don't know if that was intentional or just a little bit of a racing incident there, but definitely not what either driver wanted. I can't help but assume Exposito has a little bit of wing damage now on that Karima Motorsport car. Looks like he went for, Patrick Letavet went for a pass. Looks like a little bit of netcode having an issue there with both drivers.
Room. There was no room. He just didn't expect him to be there.
Nicholas Short making his way into pit lane. He is now coming out of the pit lane. As you can see, Rob Bohr now snaking down the front straightaway with Herbino. Herbino on the inside, Bohr on the outside, trying to make a pass again in turn number 1. Doesn't look like he'll be able to complete it. Herbino holding on to P7 after missing turn 1 completely just a few laps ago.
Bohr is so consistent on the brakes. He just knows when to send it on the brakes onto the inside. He's been very late on the brakes, and he's just been holding that inside line like it's his actual racing line. Definitely a practice maneuver.
I gotta say, Herbino has a very pretty car there. Chrome red fits on anything, and he's making it work here in P number 7. That Devotion sim racing machine looking sharp as it makes its way down the back straightaway and into turn number 8, 9, and 10. This little chicane part is a very tough part of the racetrack. Austin, which part of the racetrack do you think is most challenging for these drivers?
I gotta say the opening turns of the infield. It's just so flat, so sweeping. You want to just put the power down, but once as you put the power down, the back end is going to slide out for you. As we're going up to the battle for 4th between Olsen and Ilbrink. Olsen going down to the inside. This is a non-DRS battle. It's a straight-up drag race here at Indianapolis.
Ilbrink along the outside. He'll complete the pass on the outside. That Radicals Online machine will make his way into P number 4. And Herbino continuing to keep the spot away from Rob Bohr. It looks, watching on in the back, it's Omar Baja, the American in the number 16 machine.
Yeah, Baja watching this fight, probably eating some popcorn, maybe seeing some red mist as he's closing in on these battling two. Christopher Herbino after that sad mistake as Bohr
spun! Bohr spins!
He's in the wall.
Spun into the wall. Damage on that machine. Getting a little bit overzealous on the power there. Looks like the back end. Yeah, the back end just getting away from him. Coming over that rumble strip. An unfortunate break for Rob Bohr. He's back up to speed, but in P number 13, it looks like a little bit of damage to that left front. But back up to the front of the pack, Paul Ilbrink in P number 4 completed a pass on Greg Olsen for this position. He'll make his way back down to turn number 1. Everybody kind of spacing out here at the front. Manuel Domingo, still your leader over passing I.M. Keeman a little bit earlier in the race. Steve Honan currently sitting in P number 3. Ilbrink in 4th. Olsen in 5th. Alexei Sorotkin in P number 6, Christoph Herbino in P7, Omar Baja P8, Edward Samborski P9, and Urka Lindstrom rounding out your top 10 as we are just past halfway finished here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course in the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship, live here on the iRacing Esports Network and presented by Apex Racing TV. And Rob Bohr on the inside of Amal Yanes. Yanes going to stay in P number 14 in that MXS racing machine.
One of the more beautiful liveries on the grid with that beautiful chrome jade-like nose. As Nicholas Short is off in the gravel.
Nicholas Short already a lap down, not what he wanted out of this race. Coming through turn number 4, back onto the front stretch. Ilbrink holding off Olsen. Olsen kind of not gaining much here on the front straightaway. Everybody on the limiter as they head down towards turn number 1. Olsen getting a little close there on Ilbrink, but it'll quickly fall back as we go through the opening turns of this infield section.
Olsen riding on board with him, sitting exactly behind where he wants to be on Ilbrink. It's not going to be in striking distance, but he's just sitting back there waiting for any mistake, trying to force an issue. for Paul.
You gotta wonder, how many DRS charges do these drivers have? A lot of them are within a few seconds of each other. Can they make that up on DRS? Austin, how important is the DRS? Can you get away without using it, or is it that important and substantial when being used, especially on the straightaways?
It's going to be... It's a hit or miss sometimes because on a straight, on your own, it's not going to make that much of a difference. But when you're drafting somebody, it can make a difference if you're going to have a little bit of a braking fight or if you're going to have the corner by turn 1. Or we've also seen it being used as a defensive mechanism, but it's not the best defensive mechanism as we saw with, I believe it was Amal defending with DRS. He was still overtaken at the end, but he did put up a great fight with it enabled. So it's more of when to use it and who you're battling with. As we're almost we are halfway through the race right now. The time to use it is pretty much right now when you want to use it crucially and try to get away. And
Amal
Yanez off the track, missing turn 1. And I think he's going to stop and retire. Is that a lockup? Nope, just missed the breaking point.
And I want to point out something that our wonderful producer, Marco Barbonero, just flew on the screen. You can see it now that we're back live. The track temp all the way down on that graphic on the right side of your screen. You can see it's 24 degrees Celsius, the current track temp. For all of you American viewers, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a pretty cold track temp, especially when we're used to hot, blazing sun tracks being in the 100 degrees Fahrenheit range and in the 30 degrees Celsius range. Austin, is that affecting these drivers at all? Does that make them any faster, and do they drive differently with a colder track?
Yes. And we're seeing DRS being used. Crouch flying ahead of Cedric Bill. Nope, Crouch being dropped by Cedric Bill, who enabled DRS on that straight to get up into P11. And
Bill sitting in P11. Trying to hold off trying to hold off Rob Crouch. Sitting a little bit far back, though. Crouch needs to make up a little bit of gain. Hopefully, he has some DRS charges left. Amal Yanez, after that spin, has made his way into the pit lane to get a little bit of damage fixed or possibly grab some new Michelin tires in the pit lane. Olsen currently sitting in P number 5. You can see the intervals now on the Apex Racing TV ticker on the left side of your screen. The gap that's really shocking me is the gap between Steve Honan and I.M. Keeman. Over 3 seconds between Honan and second place I.M. Keeman, and Ilbrink is 2.5 seconds back from Honan. So these top 5 are pretty spread out, except for Keeman and Domingo and Olsen and Ilbrink. Now we'll head back to P number 13, Rob Bohr, making a pass on Rob Crouch.
Crouch in the same to Bohr, and Bohr is going to return the favor right there, getting up into P12 right before turn 1. And back up to the battle for 4th between Ilbrink and Olsen. So they're coming onto the back stretch. Olsen in the draft of Ilbrink, going to use this to just regain himself. Not going to try to send it for any move right there. So we're heading into the chicane part of the course. It's a very awkward part of the course, I must say. Here on the road course, it's completely opposite from the opening sector. Sector is very...
And coming out of turn number 10, it looks like there's a couple of bumps there that kind of upset the car a little bit. You saw Olsen pretty much bouncing coming off of the corner, so I think these drivers need to take that a little bit slow to try and kind of creep over those bumps, because these cars sit very low to the ground. Any sort of large bumps are going to really upset these machines.
Exactly. Any small bump we see can upset a car. I know yesterday in a different broadcast we had, it absolutely upset a lot of cars. Even with a lot of downforce, the smallest amount of bump can just upset a car.
Currently still in the lead, it's Manuel Domingo. I am Keeman sitting in second, and you can see down the bottom of your screen the lap comparisons for the past 5 laps. It looks like I am Keeman a little bit faster than Domingo on the majority of the laps, but last time he fell off quite a bit, 0.155 seconds back. He is currently a little over 1 second away from the leader. And that is Manuel Domingo. I am Keeman sitting in second. Steve Honan in third. Paul Ilbrink fourth. Greg Olson rounds out your top 5 as they'll head onto the front straightaway. 8 laps remaining here at Indianapolis. And again, that time by Domingo setting a 1:14.97, fastest time of the day, not only for him, but for the entire session.
Actually, the fastest lap has actually been a tie between Keeman and Domingo, as we have a little bit of a drag race for P11 between Cedric Bill and Bohr. Bill up onto the inside. He's going to set out the brakes, but look at Bohr sailing around the outside. He had carried all the momentum, but now Bill has the advantage. They're still side by side heading into turn 4. Still side by side off the corner. Bohr has the downforce holding around the outside ahead of Bill, and Bohr is going to make it count for P11. Wow. What a battle we just witnessed. Let's take a view from above from this overtake. Rob Bohr and Cedric Bill side by side heading into turn 1. Let's go and enjoy this together.
And these two have been battling. Rob Bohr has been battling all day. I don't think we've seen him really just logging laps alone this entire race. So to be battling this much throughout this race and not really mess up that much. I believe he had 1 spin and still be in P11. My amends to Rob Bohr. He is doing an amazing job here tonight. Paul Ilbrink sitting in P4. He has Greg Olson right on his tail. I believe Olson does still have DRS charges, so if you can use those down one of these straightaways, I think he can make up a little bit of time there, Austin.
Yeah, if he has a DRS use left, he can definitely use it. But I haven't been keeping track of all of the drivers' DRS use that we can see. Sadly, iRacing doesn't give us a counter of how many uses they have. Hopefully they will give that to us. As Keeman is slowly being dropped by Domingo, who's jumped up to 1.3 seconds. And he's still in the draft. It's not as strong as he is right up behind him. But I think Domingo might be using some spare DRS charges right now. Oh, got a car off. That's Joshua Stewart.
That hot pink chrome machine spinning. Looks like in the early part of the chicane. Yeah, that's definitely the first part of the infield. So he got that car going again. Currently sitting in P number 17. We'll see if he can make it to the end or if he'll pit for some new Michelin tires. Honan now has a mirror full of Paul Ilbrink and Greg Olson. They reached him pretty quickly, and now it is a 3-way battle for third. And Honan getting a little bit loose there as they come through turn number 7.
So we're flying down the back straight. We got a little battle for third between Holden, Ilbrink, and Olson. Olson sitting in P5. And as we were watching Ilbrink and Olson, these two have been on a charge, and Honan's been falling off the pace a little bit. And they've caught up right onto the gearbox as Ilbrink might try to engage in a battle with Honan, but Honan enables DRS, trying to fly away and pull away from the charging Ilbrink and Olson. Ilbrink not using DRS. Olson is using DRS, and Ilbrink might be a sitting duck. Let's look back from Honan.
Honan using DRS as well, trying to pull away. Nobody gaining anything there. I believe all 3 of them enabling a DRS charge there. They'll now have the cooldown. We'll see if they'll use them coming across next time by, but we have less than 5 laps to go now here at the historic Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Ilbrink and Olsen are so close to Honan, but they need to get these corners a little bit better. They're trying to make up too much time on the straightaways, and especially on the front straightaway. These cars are maxing out that 6th gear, making DRS ever so more important to get any ounce of aerodynamic power you can out of that car. We'll see how Ilbrink, Olsen, and Honan do through this last section in the infield, all getting through it pretty easily. And you can see on the ticker left side of your screen, fastest lap of the race, 1:14.568 set by Olsen. That is the fastest time of the session by 4/100ths of a second.
Greg Olsen topping it out, bouncing off that rev limiter. Talked to a few drivers about their gearing choice, and it is very different answers I'm getting. Some of these guys want to max out the revs like Greg Olsen. Some of them don't even like the sound of the rev limiter hitting and just want a more smoother output and power. As we see Samborski having a little bit of a battle with Baja for P8. Samborski taking that outside line. Baja sending up onto the inside for that position.
Back up to the front, Manuel Domingo keeping the lead. I am Keeman within striking distance. But I think he's going to need to either rely on Domingo not having any more DRS charges left, or Domingo making a mistake through the middle infield section of this course. We'll see what happens coming on to the Indianapolis Oval through turns 12 and 13, and Rob Bohr spinning for the second time today.
We're going off in the opening sector, trying to get behind of...
It looks like a little bit of dirty air there, spinning him around in the infield section. Ilbrink trying to block Greg Olsen as they come across the yard of bricks. 3 laps remaining. Olsen at the inside of the Radicals online driver of Ilbrink. Not going to make anything happen. Ilbrink within striking distance of Honan. Olsen within striking distance of both of them.
It's a great battle for third place, and something we're definitely going to be keeping with. But the battle for first is also firing up as well between Domingo and Keeman. As Keeman is definitely in striking distance behind Domingo. They have that lap car, not giving them any troubles right here.
I am Keeman. Made up a little bit of time. He is about a half a second back. You saw last time we tuned into this battle, it was about 0.7 seconds back. So he'll come across the line. 2 laps to go. But I think Keeman went a little bit too wide coming off of the infield section, dropping back to 0.8 seconds. Will Domingo use the DRS?
No.
Will Keeman use the DRS as well? And it looks like Domingo not using any. Keeman also not using any, as they'll come to 2 laps remaining.
Yeah, 2 laps to go. If there's any time to use DRS and make the move, now is the lap to do it, because everyone's expecting you to do it on the very last lap to try to make a move. But here comes Honan. No DRS assist, and he's going to set it up onto the inside and take third place. Nope, that's Ilbrink.
Ilbrink taking P number 3 away from Honan. Looking back in the pack, Samborski on the outside of Omar Baja. Baja blocking him a little bit, not making any contact, but Samborski gonna stay in P number 9 as they make their way through the infield section. But the leaders will make their way onto the oval once again. Domingo coming through the final few corners of the infield section, through turn 10, down through 11 and 12. Domingo over a second now between him and I am Keeman. Do they have any more DRS charges? We're going to have to wait and see. They'll come out of the front stretch. Domingo using a DRS charge. Is Keeman as well? Yes, he is. Both of them using DRS as they come out of the front straightaway. 1 lap to go in Indianapolis.
Sir La Vaca, as Marco would say, as they're racing down into turn 1 for the last lap here at the beautiful Brickyard Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Coming through the first couple of corners in the infield section, through turn 3, down through the sweeping right-hander of 4, and into tight turn 5, 6, and 7, and they'll head down the back straightaway. Domingo just making that gap between him and Keeman even more substantial. Onto the back straightaway. Are any of them using any DRS charges? No, you can see right through both rear wings. We'll see if they use their last DRS charges on the front straightaway or if they even have any left to use through turn 8, 9, through 11, into 12, and
DRS
down
is
to the final
activated for
corner, turn
Domingo.
13. Domingo activating DRS. Keeman, no DRS left to activate. Domingo pulling away from Keeman through the final corner. Manuel Domingo takes the win at Indianapolis.
What a win for Domingo. Ian Keeman coming in second. Paul Ilbrink is going to pull away for P3. Your top three, Domingo, Keeman, and Ilbrink here at Indianapolis. But the race is still going on. Samborski trying to hold it around the outside, coming out of Indianapolis.
For the finish.
Samborski, he's got the run. Samborski is going to take P8 at the line.
A last-minute move from Samborski puts him into P number 8. Taking a look back, Honan getting a little bit loose. Gave up a position to Greg Olson. Honan came across the line in P number 5.
Patrick Little Vet, he's been having a tough race. He's going to finish out this race in P15. We were talking with a lot of drivers at the end of last round in Montreal. They were not looking forward to this track. It's not a real driver's favorite track here at Indianapolis. Unless you've actually driven it in real life, then it's kind of has a special place in your heart. But it's a very hard track, and it certainly was a very hard-fought race we saw today, especially for the top 5 and the lead. Josh, take us through the results.
The full race results here on the iRacing Esports Network from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Manuel Domingo on top today in that number 2 machine. He takes the win. I am Keeman in second. Paul Ilbrink, P number 3. P4, Greg Olson. 5th, Steve Honan. 6th, Alexei Sirotkin. In 7th, Christoph Herbino. In 8th, Edward Samborski. In P number 9, Omar Baha. P10, Urka Lindstrom, rounding out your top 10 of finishing. P11, Cedric Bill. P12, Jorge Exposito. 13th, Rob Bohr. 14th, Rob Crouch. 15th, Patrick Letavet. 16th, Luke Groom. 17th, Joshua Stewart. 18th, Amal Yanes. Taking a look at the final 3 finishers. Stephen Warcup, Nicholas Short, and Thomas Knoll rounds out all 21 finishers. We'll see if we have anybody coming in here for an interview, but Austin, this race was exciting from top to bottom. From the moment we dropped the green flag to the moment we dropped the checker, seemed like we always had a battle going on.
We definitely did. The battle at the front, it was a 3-way fight up at the front until that unfortunate incident with Christopher where he missed his breaking point. But the battles, some beautiful battling happening here. And it's definitely one of the best races we had in the Formula 3.5 series.
Yeah, and I think that is just an attest to the track here. Indianapolis is a very difficult track to have a boring race at, no matter what configuration you're on. The oval, always exciting no matter what car is here. The Formula 3.5, no exception on the road course today. With the infield section being so technical and so difficult, we don't see a lot of these tracks anymore where it seems like you have to hit your apexes in every corner to master this racetrack. And doing that today was, of course, your winner, Manuel Domingo. We have a couple of drivers in the interview waiting area. Austin, you want to grab the first one?
Yeah, let's bring in the 3rd place driver, Paul Ilbrink. Howdy, Paul. How you doing?
Being happy with 3rd, I guess. Was an exciting race for me.
You got onto the podium, so I would certainly be happy about that. As Jimmy Broadbent would say, podium or DNF.
Yeah, exactly. It was a tough race, especially with Greg behind me. We had like similar pace, and every time I made a mistake, he would catch my draft and had to use DRS defensively. But luckily, in the end, we caught Steve, which helped me a bit just sitting in his draft and like saving some extra DRS. And once I got past, the gap was just big enough to consolidate it for the final couple of laps.
Paul, of course, these Formula 3.5 cars are equipped with 8 charges of DRS. How quickly did you go through those charges, and did you save some for the last push to the finish?
I used a couple. Well, at the start, I didn't use any, pretty much because the field was still reasonably close together in the first lap or so. So I just used the draft there and not use DRS. But further on in the race, I used them defensively, like I said. And I think just before I passed Steve for P3, I already ran out because I had to use quite a couple to defend from Greg, because he did get a run on me a couple times, and when we went side by side into turn 1, we lost so much time. So every time he got like within 6/10, I just used it on the oval parts to just stay ahead and have a clean turn 1, just not going side by side. So yeah, I ran out with 3 laps to go or something, I think. But luckily I could pass Steve just without DRS in the draft, and after that the gap was big enough to Greg to keep in third.
Speaking of DRS as well, when is the perfect time to use DRS?
For me, it like I think most people went with like the high downforce setup, and with the gear in the gear settings in the high downforce set, it's a choice to like limit the top speed to like 275 ish. And like any click longer and you lose so much traction, and it just like you go faster in the draft, but if you're driving alone you lose so much time. So I think the only sensible part to use it is like entering the oval, preferably even like a little bit before. You have to be really careful in that draft, but it only helps like till you reach that top speed of 275. So that's the only point you can use it, really.
All right, thank you, Paul. Congrats on P3. Before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Sure. All my teammates at Radicals Online and our sponsors and partners, Cranfield Simulation, Joe Real Timing, Arma Center, Essa Sim Race, Motev Podcast, Turn Racing, Simmortal, Six Sideways, and Pixel.
All right, thank you, Paul. We'll see you next week at in Australia.
Right.
Gonna go ahead and grab your P8 finisher. We also have Greg Olson in the interview waiting area. We'll grab him in just a little bit, but right now I want to talk to your P number 8 finisher, Edward Samborski. Edward, you had a bit of an exciting race there. You finished down in P number 8. Was that the finish that you were expecting or wanted from this race here at Indianapolis?
No, not at all. I really didn't feel like I had grip. I don't know why. I can't explain it. Right from as soon as I joined in practice, I ran a race yesterday, last evening, and I was the same pace as Steve and Greg, and well, maybe not Greg, but same as Steve and Alexi. And today, all of a sudden, I'm 4 to 5 tenths off in qualifying, and I have no idea why. So I mean, I was a little surprised by that. I thought for sure I'd had a top 5 here, but
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
We saw you make a last lap run in the final few couple of corners towards Omar Baja to take over P number 8. Did you use DRS in that pass, and how many DRS charges did you use early on in the race, or did you save more for the end?
I saved all of mine for the end. I didn't feel I had a real need to use them, and I found, just at least for me, that you seem to gain a little bit more of an advantage waiting towards the end of the race when the car's a little bit lighter, because of the limited top speed with the downforce setup we're running here. If you can get up, the sooner you can get up to that top speed, the better. So it may sound crazy, but the 10 pounds less of fuel is almost good for a tenth of a second if you can manage not to crash going on the oval, because every lap you do that, it's a nerve-wracking experience. You got to be very careful with the wheel.
This track is so technical and challenging, especially in the infield sections of this track. Did you find a challenge getting this track down, or do you feel like this is one of the tracks that when you go to it, you're going to have a good day?
I definitely think it needs some practice, but I feel like once you have the line pretty much figured out, it's no different than any other track. What I do notice though is if you miss your marks at all, you seem to lose more time here than out on a different track. If that makes sense, like if you run wide at a different track, you might lose 2/10. Here, it's like half a second, hands down.
Anyone else you'd like
So,
to thank?
thank Fnatic. Thank you guys for putting on a good show, and that's about it.
Thank you very much, Edward Samborski, your P8 finisher. We're going to go ahead and bring in your P number 4 finisher, Greg Olson. Greg, it was an exciting race for you, battling for almost the entire race, especially towards the end, grabbing P number 4 away from Steve Honan. Do you feel like this track really suits your driving style, or do you feel like you kind of had to rely more on the setup for speed here?
That's difficult to say, actually. I think it's probably a little bit of both. I did see I got fastest lap, which was surprising, but I don't think anyone really felt comfortable here except maybe the top two. So, yeah, just our Montreal set worked very well here.
We saw everybody using DRS, of course, 8 charges of DRS throughout the entire race. And we've been asking all these drivers, how much did you save for the end, and how much did you use early on, and what do you think is better, to save them or to use them?
I think it depends on the situation. I used one early on when I made a mistake just to stay in front of my teammate Alexi. But then after that, I saved 7 DRSs for the last 7 laps. And I just wish 6th gear was longer because I could have used a lot more of 6th gear if with all the DRS I saved.
And we did see everybody pushing that 6th gear limiter down the front straightaway at Indianapolis. Which turn was it more important to get momentum off of? Because, of course, with everybody on the limiter, just comes down to how much momentum you have. Was that turn number 11 coming back onto the oval, or was it more turn 13, turn 1 of the oval?
No, it's definitely turn 11. And yeah, that's pretty much the only corner you really had to nail. Even onto the back straight, if you use DRS, you don't go fast enough down the back straight to get an overlap, and the braking zone's too short. So yeah, it all came down to those tricky last corners where it's really bumpy, getting a good run out of there.
Anyone else you would like to thank?
I just like to thank Positive Sim Racing and the rest of our partners and my teammates and you guys for putting on the broadcast.
Thank you very much, Greg Olson, finishing P number 4 here at Indianapolis. Austin, this entire race was exciting from the moment we began to the moment we're ending now, the broadcast here on the iRacing Esports Network. Looking ahead to Phillip Island next week, what do you think is the challenge of that circuit?
Oh, Phillip Island. I have a lot of memories with this track. It's a very long turns, very swooping corners, so it's going to be the setup because there are just like 2 sections of that track where you're actually on the brakes and have to be in a slow setup to get around these corners. So expect very medium downforce setups, but you can go from medium to low downforce on that track to keep the car planted. So it's going to be a very interesting race at Phillip Island, and it's definitely one that y'all do not want to miss out on.
Make sure you are tuning in next week, next Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship at Phillip Island. Austin Knight and Marco Barbonera will be here for the call of that race. So make sure you do not miss it. From all of us here at Apex Racing TV, for Austin Knight, Marco Barbonera, I am Joshua Lee saying goodbye from Indianapolis.